welcome to Ellen Ruth Soap. I'm Ellen, and today we are going to make another fall-inspired soap, and it's going to be a beer soap. This is the beer I'm going to use. Normally I use like an Oktoberfest or something, but I didn't have any and I didn't want to go buy a whole six-pack for one beer for soap. I hope you understand. But I will show you how I like to work with beer in soap making. We'll go through that and the fragrance that I'm going to use today. I've used this before. It's called Pumpkin Cider from Wholesale Supplies Plus, and it smells so good. It's very light in soap, but really nice, and the cider made me think of hard ciders, and that made me think of beer soap, and kind of, you know, how my brain sort of spins out like that. So that brought us to this point today where we're at. So it behaves well in soap, no ricing and separation, but it does discolor to tan, which is fine. I love, you know, the muted sort of ivory color that comes out at the end. You know, these fall soaps, I think, just it goes along with the whole theme. I'm loving it. I'll probably use a little titanium dioxide like I did last time I used this, and the colors were perfection. So that is the plan, and I will show you how I prep my beer to go into this soap. And I don't really have my colors picked out, or I think I'm just going to do a swirl. I got to think about the details. I got so excited about the fragrance in the beer, I kind of, you know, I'll get it figured out. So let me get my ingredients all pulled together. I will have a plan. I will have a plan, and I'll show you how I prep the beer for this soap, and let's come back and make some pumpkin cider beer soap. All right, we are back with my hot plate here. It's just a little single burner hot plate. I use this for my double boiler anytime I need something like that down in the studio. This thing has been great. I'll leave a link for it down below. It's just a little stainless steel saucepan, and here is my beer. This is 12 ounces, I guess. That's the standard size. So I'm going to bring this up to a good simmer and let the alcohol and the carbonation sort of fizz off, and then we'll weigh it and bump it back up to the right weight with water when this is all done. We'll measure and see what we have left. Let me use my washcloth. My hands aren't that strong. So here we go. I'm just going to pour it in here aggressively so that it foams up, because I want all that carbonation to release out of here, and let it do its thing. It's just going to sit here and simmer, and I'll stir it and just keep it on here until all that foam sort of comes down and it's not as aggressively bubbly. I'm not looking for any specific temperature or anything like that. We are up to a boil, a nice low boil, hot simmer, however you want to call it, and I'm just going to keep stirring this till most of the foam is gone and I can't stir up any more bubbles, and then I'll know that the carbonation is out. And of course all the boiling is getting rid of the alcohol rather quickly. Alcohol burns off pretty quickly, so I'm just looking for the bubbles to slow down. And then I'm going to set it off to the side and let it cool overnight, and we'll weigh it tomorrow and see how much we're ended up with. All right, guys, we're back, and I have a confession to make. I am filming on my brand new iPad, and I thought I had pressed the record button, and I didn't. And so here is my beer lye soap. So what I'm going to do is talk you through exactly what I did. So you saw me boiling my beer down. That just took about 5, maybe 7 minutes, and then I just turned the heat off and let it sit and cool off. And then when it was all said and done, I used a 12-ounce bottle of beer. I ended up with 9 ounces of beer after it boiled off, kind of off-gassed all the carbonation, boiled down the alcohol. So I got 9 ounces of beer, and then I added, topped this off, so I have 11 ounces of liquid. So I added 2 more ounces of water in here to get to 11 ounces total. And then I added a little bit of sugar because I want some bubbles in here. And I did add a pinch of Tussa silk fibers, and the sugar and the silk is totally optional. And then I added 5.2 ounces or 148 grams of sodium hydroxide to this. And I didn't even have to add it slowly because there was no alcohol left in that beer. I just dumped it in like I normally do and stirred it till it was all dissolved, and threw in a teaspoon of sodium lactate, which helps it unmold easier. Again, that's extra and you don't need it, but that's what's going on here. And I apologize for my learning curve on my new iPad. The button is a little more sturdy than my old button. I could just barely touch my old button and it would start filming, and this one you actually have to like press. So I'm learning. But here is our beer lye solution. Look at that gorgeous caramely color. So with that color, I have my fragrance measured off to the side here, and I'm only going to be adding my fragrance into the bulk of the soap. I'm going to pull off just a little bit and add some TD and have a white swirl in there just to make it pretty and swirly. And for the bulk of the soap, I'm going to use my Sunset Orange from Be Scented and just a touch of titanium dioxide in there because this fragrance does have vanillin, and I want it to kind of rust up and make a pumpkin-y cider type orange, you know, maybe even a little darker. I just feel like after the vanillin works its magic in here, it's going to be more of a muted orange. It won't be quite so vibrant, and the color in the beer, that will help along that also. So there is the beer lye solution. It's fantastic. It does smell a little beery right now, but that scent won't go through saponification. So if you wanted a soap to smell like beer, I would suggest getting a beer scented fragrance. Let me set this off to the side and we will get to our soap additives. All right, here are all of my oils, butters, all the good stuff is in here. The recipe is down below, and I have used this recipe a few times before. And this recipe makes a little bit extra. I'm using my little Amazon mold. Here she be. And this volume I'm making today will fill this up with a mounded top. And I want I'm going to save off some of the white and scoop it on top so it'll look like the head of a beer, just kind of a fluffy topping. That's what we're going for. So now it's time for the additives, and I'm going to go ahead and do my oats and my clay in here. So this is about a teaspoon of colloidal oats, maybe a little more, and the same, about a generous, I'd call it probably 2 teaspoons of kaolin clay. Let's get this blended up, and then we will get back with our beer lye solution. All right, we are back. It's time to make the soap. And I am soaping at about 90 degrees today. It's a little warmer than I normally soap with. I think it's going to be fine, but just to let you know, normally when I soap, I'm between, well, I'm typically around 80 degrees, so just a little warmer. And I don't think that's going to be an issue. I hope it's not. But we will get this up to a nice emulsion, and then I'll pour off my little bit of white portion, and then we'll get the bulk of this scented and colored. And I do have my hanger off to the side. I'd like to do a wispy hanger swirl in here. we are back. It's the next day, and look how just inviting this looks, and it smells good, and I can already get a little peek of the orange in there. I'm loving the color. So of course this little white portion on top is unscented, but it does have the colloidal oats, which creates like a beige tinge to it. Anyway, let's get in here and see how those swirls came out. We're back with the lovely Olga, and it's time to get in here and see what's going on the inside. I love this part of soap making. It's always a little bit of an adventure, and I love that every single time. So let's get in here. The soap is nice and firm today. All right. And here we go. Wow, I've got glycerin rivers. I haven't had that in a while. It's kind of cool looking though. And we will talk about what glycerin rivers are. But let's just take a moment to appreciate the pumpkin color here. I am loving it. That pumpkin color is pretty accurate. I think that definitely has a gourd color orange. Interesting swirl. So when I did my hanger, I realized afterwards I didn't run it through the middle. I just went around the outside. And so that's why it's not wispy swirls. It's kind of, I don't know, lumpy swirls. I think it's still really pretty. But a little bit of glycerin rivers, and that's because my titanium dioxide is mixed in water. And I used a little more water than I normally do. It's still a water discount what I did today. But when you have a high water volume making soap, you can get glycerin rivers, and they're just an aesthetic thing. It's glycerin in your soap is a good thing. It's a humectant. You want it in there. It's naturally occurring, but the rivers just come when there is a good load of water that you're mixing. So it's an aesthetic thing. Yeah, it's not changing the chemical compound of your soap at all. I'm trying to make that clear. So anyway. It is a cool phenomenon, and some people will even do it on purpose. They like them. I have done a soap with glycerin rivers on purpose because it looks really marbly. It doesn't, yeah, it's just barely there. This isn't a perfect example of it. If you've never seen them before, this is not a good example, but yeah. Anyway. All right, so here is the little end slice. This is a better example. See how it looks kind of like marble? Or natural stone. That's the glycerin rivers in there. It's a cool phenomenon. All right, so with the beer and I added the sugar, these are gonna lather beautifully, which I'm loving, and they smell fantastic. And because I didn't scent this light color portion, it will hold its color. And I'm not really even seeing much of a halo, so I don't think these are gonna even darken up much. And I love the color. To me, that looks like the inside of a pumpkin. So I wanted to talk really quick about the recipe I'm using today, and I've used this recipe several times before and shared it, and I love it. It's a wonderful soap recipe, but it does have lard in the recipe, and I get asked often, you know, what can I replace the lard with? Either because I don't have any, or religious purposes, or, you know, anything like that. Some people just don't want a soap with lard. I get that. That's totally cool. But you cannot just replace the lard with something. If you do, you now have a different recipe. And I type this out a lot when people ask, what's a good sub for whatever in cold process soap? So let's say you take this recipe that's written down below and you don't want to use lard. So you want to use tallow, or you want to use palm oil, or more coconut oil, or more shea butter, or you fill in the blank. You need to run the numbers through Soap Calculator, because lard has a different saponification value than tallow, and coconut oil, or, you know, shea butter. They all have a different sap value, which can change your lye ratio. Now, some of the oils are very, very close, But you just don't ever want to replace an oil in a soap recipe without running the numbers and double checking your lye. And you'll also want to look at, you know, it might affect the hardness of the bar or the lather of the bar. Each oil brings something different to the table when you're making soap. And so just be mindful of that. So if you see this video and you're like, what can I replace the lard with? I'm telling you right now, go to Soap Calculator and put in what you'd like to use and just make sure your lye is correct. And I would suggest doing a tiny test batch so that you know the bar comes out as hard as you want, or you know the lather's where you want it, all of that stuff. You know, soap making is a cool science and I love everything about it. And I'm talking too much right now. What I need to do is walk away from these. I'll come back in a few hours and bevel the sides and do my stamp like I do and all of the good stuff. And I do hope you give the recipe a try. And if you substitute the lard, let us know down below how you're liking that. And thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.